Hello and welcome back. My name is Njeri and I'm a storyteller. If you have been on my channel, if you're familiar with my work, then you might be asking yourself, what does it mean to be a storyteller? Well, you're in luck. Today, I'll tell you about my work as a storyteller. You learn about how I got started, what I do on a day-to-day basis, and what I envision myself doing in the near future. So make sure you stick around till the end of the video. For us to understand my love for storytelling, we have to go back to the beginning. As a young girl, I read a lot of books, and in the beginning, it was not by choice. We grew up in a very low income and sort of unsafe neighborhood, and my mom used books as a way for her to keep me indoors and keep me out of trouble. And so she forced a lot of books on me. I read a lot of books. I was reading books that were a bit ahead of my reading level at a very young age. And that is how I started falling in love with stories. And so I'd get very excited about books. I'd get very excited about all the stories that were within the books. I remember one of my favorite stories is called Signs of Aging. And I couldn't pronounce the word aging. So using the pronunciation I'd been taught at school, I read it as Signs of Again. And at that time I used to wonder, like, what is again? And it wasn't until much later when I understood the meaning of aging that I was like, I was reading this all wrong. And so that curiosity and love for books and stories continued with me and has continued. I still read a lot and I still love fiction more than any other type of books. And so growing up, I also didn't have a clarity of what I wanted to do career-wise. Like every other child, at one point I wanted to work in medicine, at one point I wanted to be a lawyer, at another point I wanted to be a computer scientist, so I was all over the place. When I finished high school, I wanted to do interior design and specifically architectural interior design. At that time, there was no course that was combining the both of them. I could either do architecture separately and then major in interior design, or do interior design and then learn about the architectural bit of it another way. And so I felt very frustrated, and I was looking for scholarship opportunities to study abroad or find programs outside of Kenya that could combine that. But I was not lucky, or rather I didn't pursue that as relentlessly. And so when we started getting invitations to university, I got an invitation to join Kenyatta University, KU, to study theatre arts and film technology. And initially, a lot of people discouraged me from that, and I let it get to me. It was a program in the arts, and arts in Kenya do not pay. There was no clear career path for me, and a lot of people around me tried to convince me to sort of try and look for something else, or to get into university and then change into a different program. And I thought of doing that. I actually was convinced that this might have been the wrong choice, but immediately I started doing more research into what a Bachelor of Arts means and what this might mean for me. I started getting very excited, and so I stuck through with my pursuit of a Bachelor of Arts in Theatre Arts and Film Technology. So I studied filmmaking and theatre, and that was my secondary introduction into storytelling. During my undergraduate, I was introduced to a new form of storytelling. Initially, I had started out with books and fictional storytelling, and I knew storytelling from the perspective of fictional authors and in form of books. But now, being in film school and being around a new set of creatives, I was introduced into expressive and sort of mixed media storytelling. So I was introduced into videography as a form of storytelling, into theater as a form of storytelling, into photography as a form of storytelling, animation, and all of these things that I got exposed to when in university. And it reignited my love for storytelling. And at that point, I started now being introspective about it and started thinking about my interaction with stories over time. And one thing that stood out for me at that point in life was how I connected with my grandmothers, and by extension, people who are way, way older than me. And that was through stories. I was always a very curious child. I still am a curious person. I'm the kind of person who interviews old people like I'm doing a documentary. And if I find somebody who's willing to indulge, which is a lot of older people, it really does excite me. And so I realized that throughout my life, I'd used storytelling to connect with my grandparents. But even at that point, it didn't really add up. So I was like, okay, I will continue to pursue a course in film production. My interest was more in film production. And then I went on to work in different film productions. I did a lot of freelance projects. I did a lot of mainstream projects. I did an internship program that was over a year and sort of got to experiment with that. And in my journey towards trying to fall in love with filmmaking, as a lot of people had told me, the arts industry is really difficult in Kenya, and I got to experience that difficulty. I got to experience the good and the bad of it. And at some point, I got really frustrated with one of the experiences I had, and I got really discouraged and decided to put a pause on this whole filmmaking creative thing. And at that time, I decided to go and try my hand at entrepreneurship. I mean, I had been doing businesses here and there in campus, so that felt like a natural progression for me. So I immediately went into business, put up a business in Gikomba, which is a second-hand market. And that was doing well, and I did that for about a year and a half. And my plan was for me to set it up in a way that it would be stable, it would be up and running, and I'd be able to sort of use it as a financial backup as I was pursuing art, because art is quite tricky if you rely it on survival, especially in the early stages. And that sounded like a solid plan. But as you know, life does not work out as you plan. Immediately things started working out for me in Gikomba. I was a victim to one of the infamous Gikomba fires. And so I lost a lot in that whole hullabaloo. And because I had invested a lot financially in that, that really broke me. I remember I got very discouraged. I think I almost went into depression, even though at that point I didn't realize it. And I started struggling a lot with trying to find clarity in what I was doing. And that led to some of the lowest points of my life. It affected my personal life, it affected my professional life, it affected my overall health. And at that point, I was struggling a lot. I was struggling to make meaning of what I was doing. I was struggling financially. And I was just sending out a message to the universe saying, please show me what you want. Please, anything. Like, I was open to anything as long as it was legal, as long as it was different. I was just looking for an escape. I was looking for opportunities everywhere. At this point, I told myself, if I got a job, I would take any job available to me. And in that relentless pursuit of something, anything, like I was just looking for opportunity, whether it was an opportunity to go back to school, whether it was an opportunity to get a job, I was just looking for something that would help me get out of the situation I was in, because I realized this was affecting me so negatively. And so at that time, I shared with a few of my close friends, and one of my friends sent me an opportunity to the Amani Institute. Now, if anybody knows about the Amani Institute, I would describe it in 2 words as a leadership school. It is so much more than a leadership school, and we'll get to that shortly. But at that point, I didn't know it was a leadership school, because that year they were looking to award film scholarships to some of their fellows. And because of my background in film school, I was qualified for the position. So I filled in the application. I didn't even Google what it was about. I didn't look up the school, because I was doing so poorly emotionally and mentally. I knew trying to find more information about it, I'd convinced myself I was not good enough for the school. And it's true, like there was some truth to it. So immediately I finished filling out the application, I thought to myself, okay, now that I've already sent out the application and I cannot take it back, let me look into what the school is about. And immediately I learned a bit more about them, and then I went to their fellows program. Some of their fellows are people who are very successful and people I know. So one of them is a founder of a big musical school. Another one is a co-founder of a very big art institute stroke incubation center in Kenya. And so I was like, okay, if these two are some of their fellows, then I will never ever be accepted into the program. And I forgot about it. And then a few weeks later, I got an email telling me I had passed the first stage and I was going to do an interview. I did the first interview. It was a Skype interview. At that time, I didn't have access to internet in the house I was living in. And so I had to go to a relative's house to do the interview from there. And then I waited. And then a few weeks later, they sent me an email. They told me, you've been accepted into the program, but the scholarship was only for 50%. So I told them, okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. And now my biggest role was to figure out how I would raise the 50% that was remaining. And it was not a small amount of money. The program requires an investment, and I was very curious and very interested in the program, and so I was willing to do anything that I could do within my power to make the investment. And so I tried a lot of options. I spoke to my mom at that time, and she was not in a position to help me at the time, and I understood, and now we started working together to try and find alternatives. I tried fundraising. That didn't work out at all. That was a huge fail. I tried everything. I tried even finding jobs that I'd be able to do that would help me pay for the program as I was working. That was still not forthcoming, and so I was very frustrated. And I remember calling one of the members of the program and telling them, I don't think I can join the program currently because I cannot raise the amount of money that is required. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Maybe I can spend some time outside and then try it again at another time. And I remember when I was talking to her, it was quite late at night because she was in a different time zone. So it was around 9-10 p.m. I'd come from a sort of meeting thing, and I was in a matatu, and I remember almost breaking down into tears. I think I immediately got into the matatu and just started bawling out. And for some reason we connected, and she told me, I understand, and do an email, let me know how much you can raise and let me know what the issue is, and then let's have a conversation from there. And so I wrote an email. I said, this is how much I'm able to raise within the course of the program. And because I was able to come in as a film through the film scholarship, they were able to extend that and accommodate me into the program. And that kicked off the most exciting journey of my life. Let me tell you, if you've met me in person, if you've met me post 2017, and I have not mentioned Amani Institute, I do not love you. That is just the basics of it. Amani Institute changed my life. And this is where I discovered, or let's say rediscovered my love for storytelling, but in a new light. And I'll get to that in a few minutes. For you to better understand why I say Amani is the most life-changing thing I've ever done in my life is, first of all, Amani is like a school. It's not like a traditional school. It's not anything you imagine of when you think of a school, but they have an educational program. They teach people. They're in the business of exchanging the business of providing knowledge and education and resources and a platform for you to grow intellectually. So in that sense, they are a school. But they are also, the program I undertook was the Social Innovation Management Program, the SIM program. The SIM program is like a leadership course, but not fully about leadership. It focuses on two things. It focuses on helping you identify how you want to change the world and the skills needed for you to do that. And they even equip you with the skills you need to do that. So skills such as design thinking, branding, storytelling, leadership, value proposition. Those are some of the ones I can think of at the top of my course. Behavior change. Those are things that you can apply to any field. So it's not specific to an industry. It gives you a holistic look into skills you can use in any industry. And then they have a self-leadership course, which they call as an inner journey course, which is where they allow you to be very introspective, to really ask yourself, why do I want to see change in the world? Why do I do what I do? Or why do I want to do what I do? And what within me inspires or motivates me to do that? And this is of our program was a 9-month program. A lot of the work you will do of our 4-month program. There's a pre and post program sort of learning system. And that's the basics of the Amani Institute, and that is what I got myself into. And so immediately I went from being confused and frustrated and just lacking any excitement about life into this program where I met with a lot of amazing people from different parts of the world, and then being introduced into a whole new world, into a whole new place where now I was introduced to ideas I had never heard of, and even those I had heard of, it was just a new perspective, and it was an exciting journey. It allowed me to sort of jump into from that place of being scared and being afraid into a place of curiosity. And this is where I discovered my passion for storytelling. Or not even passion, I'll call it purpose. My purpose for storytelling. Within Amani, there was a class on storytelling. It was a 3-day course, and the facilitator was a member of Think School. And immediately he walked into class. His name is Robert Wolf. Immediately he started teaching and he started explaining to us about storytelling. I fell in love. I cannot even explain the feeling. I don't know how to share this with you, but immediately I was like, this is what I've always wanted to do. This is what I've always wanted, and I didn't know that this is what I wanted. So I was so curious, I was so interested. I was like, immediately after class, I went and tried to find more information about it. I remember when we were doing our last presentations for the storytelling class, I was so excited. And immediately after that, I started trying to find out more about storytelling. And that kicked off a whole new series of events where now I discovered storytelling and its power to help people connect, storytelling and its power to help people move to action, and storytelling and its power to help people live authentically. At Amani Institute, they also had a program, part of the inner journey, where they help you sort of identify your values. And it's a series of activities. And this was very exciting because one of the things that came out strongly as a value for me is authenticity. And I realized previously, I had spent a lot of my time trying to fit into different things, trying to please people, trying to be cool, things which I am not. Like, I am awkward, I am talkative, I'm a lot of things, and the conventional definition of cool is something that I could not fit in. And so through storytelling, I started being curious about what authenticity meant for me, and how I could translate the lessons I was learning to other people and sort of help inspire other people. And that is how I got started on my journey for storytelling. I didn't obviously see the opportunities for it, and I had to stick to what I believed at that time. I followed through with it, even though I didn't know what it meant, even though I didn't see like a specific job or a specific profession or a specific service I'd be providing where I'd get compensated for. And so since then, I've spent a lot of time trying to discover what storytelling means. And this is the thing I've learned. My role as a storytelling consultant and as a storytelling professional is, one, to help people discover their why, just like I did with storytelling. I wish more people discovered their why and enjoyed it as much as I do storytelling. And secondly, to help people find out how they can live authentically in their why. And I do this in many different forms. I do this through one-on-one coaching. I do this through group coaching. I do this by running long format programs for people within organizations, and I'm still discovering more ways to do with it. And one question I get asked a lot is, what about filmmaking? And it's a question I did struggle with for a long time, because filmmaking was rough for me. And that is just being honest. I know a lot of it has got to do with how I approached it and not being patient enough to see some of the things through. And I acknowledge that, but also I didn't find my why within filmmaking. It didn't excite me as much. And I have since now learned that filmmaking and storytelling are things that work perfectly together. And so for the first time in my life, I am ready to rediscover filmmaking. I am ready to rediscover how just using media that is synonymous with storytelling can help me spread out the message of authenticity, help people just fall in love more with stories. And the exciting part about that is that recently I started working on a script. I haven't done creative writing in a really long time, and that excites me. And I think just getting to that point is accepting that this is a journey, accepting that it takes time, and just being able to sit down with the process and be excited about every little aspect of it, being excited about the failures, being excited about the successes, and just discovering it a little bit more. So currently I work with clients. I work in three major ways. So one, I do one-on-one consulting. If that is something you're interested in, you can hit me up in the comments section below. Secondly, I do storytelling for organizations and teams, and this is usually customized to fit your needs. So if you have a problem that surrounds your communication or surrounds company culture, surrounds well-being, then storytelling is perfect for that, and I help organizations with that. And I do offer both one-on-one sessions if you think people in your organization need that, or group sessions. And I do this through public speaking, through half-day trainings, 2-day trainings, 3-day trainings, that sort of thing. And the most exciting thing I do is long-term projects with clients. So currently I'm working with one of my clients on a almost 2-year project where we are working to change their culture around well-being, and that is something that is very exciting and very in tune with my work as a storyteller. And that is one of the most exciting things I currently do. So yes, that is my story about storytelling, and I hope that you learned something or enjoyed it. If you made it this far, then thank you so much. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments section below and let us connect. Until next time, keep being authentic.